You have young children and you want to start investing for their future, and you're wondering if a 529 savings plan is the way to go. Well, a 529 plan is an excellent way to save for education over time. It works almost like a Roth IRA, but for education. You contribute dollars that were already taxed through your paychecks or through your wages, and then the investments grow completely tax free from a federal and state income tax perspective, as long as they're used or distributed for qualified education expenses. Now, those qualified education expenses can range from anything from like tuition, room and board, fees, anything involved in attending a university, but also laptops, books, even off campus housing, as long as they're at least a half time student. So you can think of rent at an apartment while they're attending school. They can also be used for K to 12 education up to $10,000 a year. You can also use it up to $10,000 to pay off student loans too. So it's quite flexible from that standpoint. Not only do you get a tax advantage for when you withdraw funds for a qualified expense, but in over 30 states, you get some sort of tax advantage for contributing to a 529 plan today. For example, in Ohio, you can deduct up to $4,000 of 529 contributions per beneficiary from your state taxable income. So this can be a huge advantage over time. If your resident state is listed here and you don't have a state income tax, well, then there's not really an advantage to select your specific state's 529 plan. However, you can enroll in another state's 529 plan and still get the federal tax benefits of tax-free distribution for a qualified expense. I would go to a website like collegesavings.org or savingforcollege.com, where they have rating systems of each state's 529 plans, and I would look for a low-cost option with a lot of investment options. To address some common objections to a 529 plan, if your child receives a scholarship to attend school, well, you can withdraw the amount of the scholarship in the same year it was received, and you avoid the 10% tax penalty that you would have paid if it was an unqualified expense. You still have to pay income taxes most of the time on the amount of the scholarship, but at least you avoid the 10% penalty. If your child does not go to college, well, you can still use the 529 plan for a trade school, for K to 12 expenses, maybe for grandchildren eventually, or you can change the beneficiary to grandchildren and you use the same dollars and let those grow even longer for your grandchildren eventually. So there are definitely options when it comes to a 529 plan in terms of the flexibility if your child does not go to college. If you decided that a 529 plan is the right thing for your family, here are 3 best practices to consider as you enroll in one. Number 1, go directly to the 529 plan website to enroll instead of using an advisor or broker to do everything for you. Advisors or brokers have to purchase advisor sold funds that include a sales load that eats away into your returns or your investment value over time. Number 2 would be to consider using target date enrollment funds. The target date or year that you select in terms of the target date funds would be the year that your beneficiary is expected to enroll in college. As you get closer to that year, it will become more and more conservative and eventually in a very, very conservative fund by the time they're enrolled in college, because it becomes more and more secure that you need those funds to pay for college. Number 3 would be to consider the college funding goal in perspective of all of your other goals. You don't want to sacrifice your own retirement to be able to put your kids into college. After all, federal student loans that your kids can kind of fill the gap with are extremely flexible from an income-driven repayment perspective to be able to pay back. You don't want to continue to have to work more and more years just because you're funding your kids' college. If you enjoyed this video, you can head on over to millennialfp.com and go to the Learn tab, where you're going to find other videos just like this one. If you have a specific financial question yourself, you can scroll down to the bottom of that page, enter your question, and we'll try to answer it on a future post. And finally, if you're interested in advice for your own specific situation in an educational, judgment-free way without any product sales, head on over to millennialfp.com and schedule a free discovery session.